but time to battle, I'll find them all. I felt the whips and remember chains, but my sword has been forged by my father's flames. Fight your fears and heal your pain, and victory will be in your name.
I used to be weak, but I'm not weak no more. I found the strength of my ancestors deep down in my African core. I used to be frightened, I'm not afraid no more. The Father blessed me with the heart of a lion and a warrior soul. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Tell them no retreat, no surrender. I shall fight till the end of days. I was born as a Makai warrior, and the Almighty God my blade. Fire burn all Satan carrier. Father loose all shackles and chain. This morning first thing as I wake up, King David turns Sam to the brain. Don't let your courage go down, keep it up. And if your heart rip up and stitch it up, don't let your faith them fall, pick it up. When my cup was empty, God fill it up. Don't take the devil contract, rip it up. And if your bad mind people to go meet it up, pass me the Congo drum and let me beat it up. God on my side, me no give it up. So no weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. Thank you, Father. I want to say thank you, Lord. You are everything, Father. Thank you. Father, you alone shall guide me. No man shall lead my path. In the wind I hear your quiet whispers, and you heal my broken heart. Even some of my friends turn enemies, and they pray for right to feel. And remember you give us your only begotten son, but we gave him the wound of lies. Send down your warriors with the hello. They carry down to the end of days. No matter how the devil tries trick me, unto you my soul I will give. Father, I know this time is coming. I can see the high tide raise. Without you there is no other. Could it be that we decide? No weapon that form against I shall not prevail. And no man that rise against I, that war they shall never win. Cause I will conquer, oh I will conquer, yes I will conquer them. Come on, let's conquer, oh I will conquer, rise up and conquer them. I am a man, I am a champion, I am a warrior. So who are you to tell me that I cannot make? Who are you to tell me that I am not the greatest thing that God ever created?
Good morning, Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Martinique. You're listening to Hard Talk Grenada. A very special good morning to those of you joining us on the various radio stations, 97.5 CitysoundFM, 89.5 CRFM, 91.9 and 91.5 RealFM Radio, 92.9 Sister Al Radio broadcasting from Hillsborough, Carriacou, and of course 94.9 We Noise Radio out there in Brooklyn, New York. A very special good morning to those of you joining us us on the live video feed, whether it's on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever it is that you are joining us from. A very special good morning to you. It is a beautiful Friday morning in the Spice Isle of Grenada. I can't say it's a beautiful day for everyone because there are most are sympathizing with the residents or the nationals of St. Vincent who are currently being impacted by the eruption of their volcano. And I know for most that is a lot to consider. It's a very emotional moment for those residents, those nationals of St. Vincent. And of course, we sympathize with them. And we, of course, offer our support and offer our assistance in any way that we can. And as Grenadians, being the loving, wonderful, charitable people that we are, we should also, as a people, be prepared to offer whatever support that we can as well for our regional brothers and sisters. Nonetheless, we are, and of course, they are also happy to be alive, and we continue to pray for them and pray for their safety. With me in studio this morning, I have the Honorable Mr. Noland Cox, Minister Noland Cox, who is sitting with me this morning, and we're going to be talking about infrastructural development in Grenada. As we know, the pandemic has really done a number on us and our economy, and one of the most important facets of our economy right now for re-stimulation seems to lie within the lapse of infrastructure or infrastructural development. Good morning, Minister.
Pleasant morning. It's a pleasure to be here on Hard Talk this morning. And morning to your listeners and viewers on live. And let me say a special shout out to Carriacou, of course, for persons listening on Sister Isles. Just want to say a pleasant morning to Carriacou and everybody else listening out there. So it's a pleasure to be here this morning.
Of course. And it's a pleasure to have you. I don't think I think this is our first interview for a while. I know you were here with Mr. Bola in my absence, but it's been quite a while, and it's our first interview since you have been reassigned a new ministry. And how is that going? What has that been like for you?
It has been quite challenging, but I must say that with the support of the staff, everything has been going pretty good thus far.
All right, wonderful. So, Minister, we're going to jump right into it because time usually just flies away from us. And we're going to jump right into it. And I'm going to go into my biggest area of concern because that is the area in which I live. It's the area in which I live, and that is the Molyneux Road. We know that a lot of progress has been made in terms of figuring out what has happened in that area, and we're now at a stage, I believe, where we're trying to figure out what the best move will be in terms of rerouting traffic, I would like to say, or finding a different route away from that area. So give us a quick synopsis on what the geological study found and so on.
Okay, thank you very much for starting off with the Molyneux Road. However, before I start on the substantive matter this morning, I want to at least lend my voice to extend prayers to the government and people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines at this point in time. They are experiencing a volcanic eruption. We know that Grenada, as with our other neighbors, have a helping hand. So we wish them all the best in their evacuation and also the recovery, because that is where the challenges will come in the recovery part of it, persons getting back to life in normal. So we're going to have ash plumes and so forth for quite a couple of days or so thereafter. So we just hope and pray that there is no incident or loss of life during this period. We are going to stay up to date. I know that we have persons on the ground from Grenada, from NADMA, here on the ground in St. Vincent giving assistance, and maybe after meeting today of NADMA, NIAC, there may be other persons going over to assist as well. So I think that the Prime Minister also would have reached out to Prime Minister Gonzalez to confirm our support at this difficult time for their country. So they have a lot going on. So we are watching. We know that there are a number of Grenadians who reside in St. Vincent as well. So it's not just we're not just reaching out for Vincentians only, but also for Grenadians who reside and live over there.
Of course.
We touch some prayers with them. So we're going to monitor and see how things progress, and we're going to continue to support them. Yes. So I think I should start in terms of infrastructure to indicate that where we are as a country today, with the difficulties that we're experiencing from COVID, the sectors that have been hard hit, infrastructure have been given a task to help in the effort in stimulating the economy of Grenada through the creation of jobs, through the products and services being impacted in a positive way, so that we can get things moving. And we have been working very hard to make sure we try to implement our budget based on the mandate that we have been given through capital expenditure. The Western Main Road project is a project that was conceptualized some time back, even before the Molyneux slippage. So the Western Main Road project stems from the Kirani James Athletic Stadium all the way to St. Mark's Secondary School.
Okay.
So it's a 26-kilometer project. The project initially was to do over the entire roadway, stabilize slopes, widen roads wherever from St. George's to St. Mark's. That is the extent of the project.
Okay.
We got support, grant support from the UK government through UK CIF, and funding is implemented through the Caribbean Development Bank. We want to thank the people and government of the United Kingdom for the grant support. Now, what happened thereafter? We had an incident, a slope slippage incident at Molyneux happened thereafter. Now, what is the consequence of that? The consequence of that is that that impacted a delay in the implementation of the project further, and it impacted the cost of the project. So you have the cost of the project impacted in two fronts. One, because of COVID, the value of the pound, because we received the grant in pounds, the value of the pound would have dropped.
Right.
So we got less money from that grant. And the second one has to do with extra funds. Because of the slippage now, the project will have to find additional monies to complete the entire project, which the government of Grenada have committed to give that support to make sure that we get that road network back up and running. So that is what has happened. Sometime last year, when we had that incident, we reached out to the bank for support to do a feasibility study. Minister Bowen at the time led the charge, and so we engaged a company called through the bank called Caribbean Civil Group. So they were the firm who did the feasibility study on the Western Main Road, and the study, we received the report back a couple of weeks ago, and a number of options were put forward. Those options, we had options looking at actually condemning and rerouting through Mount Morris. There was an option to cut off that area, condemn area, and turn out to the sea. And there was an option for flyover bridge, and there was another option that to put the road back almost where it is and stabilize the top slope and stabilize the bottom all the way down to the sea. So that was the option that was recommended, and that was the option that was approved by the cabinet, that the road goes back almost to where it was, maybe some lateral movement a few meters to inland, and you stabilize all the way down to the sea coast. Okay. So a number of things are going to happen in that regard. You know that there are a number of houses in the area. Right. Some have already been lost, and some may be impacted further as we implement the project. There are going to be a number of built structures, drains, retaining walls to ensure that everything is sturdy and safe, and a prominent work is done in that regard. So that is what is going to happen. That is the option. So we, as government, we have agreed with that option, and that option now is going to be forwarded back to the bank in a formal way sometime next week, and then other actions are going to be taken. We're going to look at the funding. The bank will want to get some assurance from government that government can meet its commitment in terms of those funds, and we'll have backward and forward because they have to do the reviews and things like that. And there are other aspects of Molyneux, just one aspect. So there are other aspects of the entire project through all the way to St. Mark's that they're going to be looking. So as the report come in, the bank will approve those areas as they go forward, the designs and things like that. So then you have 2 months for preliminary design to be developed, and then you have another 2 months for final designs to be developed and approved. And then after, you have a procurement period where those designs that will go out for tender and for companies to express interest, and then somebody would be selected. So we're looking at in the last quarter of the year that tendering process to take place during that time. And once we have a contractor selected, we can see work in earnest on the ground in the fourth quarter of 2022. So that's what we're looking at for the Western Main Road project.
All right. And has a projection in terms of how long the project may take for that particular, because I know it's an entire coast that we're speaking about, but that particular area, the Molyneux area, is there a time frame that we're looking at from inception to completion?
Yes. We have looked at it initially, and we are estimating 10 months to a year just for the Molyneux area. What we are also doing is that we have we are going to indicate to the bank that we want work to start on the Molyneux area first.
Right.
So that will be the initial where work will start. So 10 to 12 months.
10 to 12 months.
Yeah.
Now, I realize that there's a lot of remedial work happening on the Mount Morris Road, patching and so on in certain areas. So we're looking at another year of traffic being diverted through that area. Are we looking at any widening in any areas or anything like that to really to facilitate that long period of traffic?
Okay, I'm very happy that you asked that question. It's something I was going to address later on. But I think it's timely that you have raised it now. Now, we have looked at the Mount Morris Joneswood area, and we walked it, we drive it, looking at options for widening for two-way traffic. There are some challenges because there are some fixed structures, homes that are in close proximity to the roadway. So you're talking about reclaiming land acquisition houses. So that has proven difficult for us to implement successfully. However, I know that the commuters, they have been having some significant challenges with the condition of the road. And we have been responding by doing some temporary repairs to the road as quickly as we can. We try to do on Sundays when there's less traffic to get the work done. And also, we did look at, we still have plans to actually have that road redo properly.
Right.
So that will happen sometime thereafter. However, what we would have done, we have commenced work to establish a brand new road, a new road network called the Monkuma Road. It was a road that was there but long before, but it has been dilapidated and in a state of disuse. So we are going to open back the Monkuma Road. That road starts from the upper Snug Corner area in Bolio and terminates in Grenville Vale. Vale. So I've walked that road as well. It's a wide road. It's quite excellent. So we are moving as an emergency response to have that new road open. So currently, that road work in surveying and design work for that road is currently being done, by Glyn's Engineering Company.
Okay.
So Glyn's won the bid to do that road. And when we last spoke, his response was that, Minister, now that I hear your concern, we are going to double up to ensure that we move as quickly as possible to have those designs back and as quickly within this quarter so we can start that road in this quarter as well. That is what we're trying to do. So that road is a 1 kilometer road, and it will help a lot to facilitate the trucks. So the bigger vehicles, they would pass it, while the other vehicles can pass, but we want to facilitate the trucks so that we can positively impact business activities in the north of the island and the west, and so of course. So that is what we are looking at as an emergency response while we wait for the Western Main Road, Molina in particular, to be remedied.
Okay, and I'm really happy that you brought up the issue of structures being built in close proximity to the road, because that has been an issue of concern for quite some time now. What is the physical planning department? Has there been a discussion or a sit down with the department to identify or even to educate? Because I believe in educating so that these measures. It limits it from happening, but in the event that it does for some reason happen in future, it cannot be said that, oh well, I did not know what is my what the proximity from the road to my structure should be, and so on. Has there been any conversation surrounding more public information surrounding that, and what really can be done to remedy what has already happened and to prevent what may happen in the future?
Okay, well, just for some clarity, and sometimes the public do sometimes believe that the physical planning department is under the responsibility of the Ministry of Infrastructure. So physical planning is not under our ministry, it's under the Ministry of Finance and Economic Development. So I do know that they do have their programs on how they engage stakeholders, but that is something that some of the issues that we have is long-standing, 20, 30 years back, and so I know that they have been doing their best to try and remedy those issues and challenges, but I cannot speak specifically. As I said, that is under the Minister Bowen is the person who is best placed to deal with those physical planning matters.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Now let's dive into some of the bigger projects that we have coming up, because we know that when the last budget was read, there was a lot of emphasis placed on infrastructural development as a means of job creation to re-stimulate our economy. What are some of the major projects that we are looking at, those that have already started and those that are on streamline to be started?
Well, one of our largest PSIP project, the Western Main Road, which I spoke about. We also have the feeder routes, agriculture feeder routes project, which commenced in October of last year. So that is a significant project. It's a significant project that impacts the country in terms of job creation. And so we have 12 routes. So 11 roads in Grenada and one in Carriacou. So I could start with the one in Carriacou first. That is done in Cherry Hill. When I last visited that road, they are moving. They were ahead of schedule, and so they are working quite fast, and they're doing a quite decent job. So I'm happy about that. That is a road that has been in the state of disrepair for quite some time. So we are happy to have that done. And in terms of employment, yes, persons have been impacted through that. From the greater end, we have 11 roads. So we have roads, Bailey's Bacolet, La Pastora Road, Bailey's Bacolet, La Pastora. That is one of the roads. You have the Claboni Road. That road is scheduled to commence. Scheduled to commence in Claboni. There's a plan scheduled on the 19th of this month. So Claboni is on the 19th of this month. The construction of the Bacolet Bridge, Mondelis to Old Wester Hall Road. So from the St. Paul's Police Station going down that road, so that road is on the list. Concord Road, Brothers Moncanis Road, that is to be done. Red Mud, I think Red Mud, there's a planned schedule for Red Mud on the 26th of this month. The Laborie Road, that is ongoing. Bel Air Road, that is ongoing. That one is almost complete. The Bel Air work is almost complete. I think it's about 80% complete. Willis to Constantine Road, the St. George's Estate Road, work is ongoing on the St. George's Estate Road currently. So that is where we are. And so those are significant impact in terms of infrastructure work through the Feeder Roads project. And then you have the St. Patrick Road network that is also ongoing. We have work in Hermitage, and they have started to lay the asphalt on those roads. So that is for the feeder roads. So that is one of our significant project that is ongoing right now. I can speak also to the St. John's River. That is the River Road. That's a long-outstanding project as well. That project we would see work from Steele's Auto, the bridge from Steele's Auto, all the way to the mouth of the river.
Okay.
So we have persons who have submitted bids. Those bids are being evaluated, and once that process is done, we expect work to commence this quarter in 2021. So we're almost there. That is significant. The parliamentary rep is very excited about that, and he said to me, he said, Coxman, I St. John's River, he said, I was in another administration at St. John's River, and the same thing happening now. So I am keeping him well up to date as to where we are with that. So he's excited that we have that project moving. We have also the work in St. John's, Brothers Bridge. Right now that work is out for tender. It is out for tender regionally through Grenada locally. So it's out so persons can look at it, and once they meet the criteria, they can send in their expressions for that. So that will see Representative Brothers Bridge and 6 slopes to be stabilized in the St. John's area. So that is a significant project for us right now.
Okay.
We have also another significant project. We have a flood mitigation study to commence. We are hoping that it can commence. That will see flood mitigation work done. St. George's, Granada here, we have those flooding, and also some work to be done in the Grenville town as well. So that those are important studies that we need to have done, and that will help inform how we respond to treat with the flood in those areas. We have the Sotter's Breakwater project. The feasibility study is currently underway. And so once that is completed, we are hoping to have the study back within this quarter, and with the designs that will inform us what we should do in terms of mitigating those coastal erosion impact, and so that the persons, the 8 families who are impacted, that we can secure that coastline and the Mount Rodney area. So that study is ongoing. It is being conducted by a company called Smith & Warner International.
Right, and I'm glad you brought that up or mentioned it at least, because just the other day there was a conversation surrounding that, and it's a very tricky situation when you look at it, because without the presence of the actual breakwater project, then those businesses and buildings in the area that it now protects would have been eroded as well. So it's really an issue of balancing. How do you balance? And Mother Nature, as we can see, is a very she's very demanding. She does what she wants to do when she wants to do it and how she wants to do it. So it's really hard to identify what those adverse effects would be when they happen, but I guess making hard decisions happen every day for government, and that was one of those hard decisions. For those people who live in the area, they would know what that area looked like before the presence of the breakwater. So often when I hear people saying, "Oh, well, the breakwater project was a mistake because it damaged the coast on the other side, and these people have been, disadvantaged and so on." And while that is also a fact, and it's a very troubling situation as well, I know government is moving speedily, or has already moved, to ensure that they are taken care of in terms of housing and so on. But it really is a check and balance kind of situation.
Well, I one of the things is that nature has its way that it operates, and there's a couple of things I would want to say on this. The work that was done before, clearly, and I think that was made known to persons that it was incomplete, it wasn't completed.
Right.
And so I think it was a matter for responding how quickly that you move with the second phase. Mm-hmm. And so the water is always moving, the coastal tides, currents, they're going to do what they have to do. Right. And so they responded accordingly. But to say that the securing that portion of the coast was a mistake, I don't think that is correct.
Right.
So I agree with you. It's important to save those other businesses. We have responded. We have provided necessary support. The cabinet have approved those support for those families who are affected, and we've been working with the parliamentary rep to ensure that we look after those families. I also want to say, and sometimes we do have organizations who express and operate with concerns for the environment, and we would always want to work together with those organizations. It doesn't benefit government and for us to be in constant conflict, because if both of us are working towards the same thing, which is to protect and to build and to develop Grenada, then that is a common objective that we have. Right. And it's a matter for us to decide how it is done, what are the modalities that we use to arrive at that common objective. And I think sometimes that's where the differences lie. And so we would always look at whatever concerns that they have, suggestions. I know that some of the programs, somebody had indicated that they had asked some questions or whatsoever, and they didn't get any answer. So sometimes we don't have all the answers, and approaching things in a combative way sometimes is not conducive for results. Mm-hmm. We are always open to have those discussions. I have a passion for ensuring that we get it right. And so we are not in any way trying to create any issue or anything of that nature. Hence the reason why we took this approach to ensure that we have a company with the experience to do the relevant studies. Right. And we are going to have that document that will inform a design what is happening, why it has happened, and how we should respond to protect the coastline in St. Patrick's. And I say this, while we were in the meeting in Molyneux, we had a community meeting in Molyneux, if I should recall, on Wednesday evening with Prime Minister, of course, the parliamentary rep for that area. And one of the residents asked the feasibility study, would it be available for public consumption? And the answer was a resounding yes. The document will be made available so persons can see for themselves what the report stated, so that it doesn't conflict with what we are saying. Right. And so that is how transparent we are with that process. Because there was somebody indicating that I was not forthcoming with the report from Molyneux. I think I was on the GBN program, and somebody indicated that, and I think that's quite unfortunate to think that we might be holding back some information, something like that. I don't even see the benefit of holding back. I don't understand. So I was a little bit confused by that, but the report is going to be made available for persons to see. So anybody that they have to accuse of being not forthcoming is the consultants. I didn't do any.
You didn't do the study, yeah.
So that is those are some of the things that you think, and sometimes in the absence of information, persons would form their own opinion of things. But we are trying to be as clear as possible so persons can understand what has transpired, what is going to happen, and we need their support to get these things done. So I am just happy that we are having that study done in Sotes, and we can have those designs and we can respond in terms of doing that work to secure the coastline.
Okay, great. All right, let's continue with some of the projects. And as we're in St. Patrick's, what would be the update on that major road project that's happening in St. Patrick, that St. Patrick road project?
Right. So that currently there was a long delay because of COVID. The fabrication for the bridge, and I think one of the bridges in Hermitage, it was a wide. Those beams were precast in Trinidad. And so there was some difficulty getting it out of Trinidad, but finally they are here, and so that was complete. That was one of the delays. So that delayed the project, I think, almost more than 3 months. I think by 80 something days or so that the project was delayed because of COVID. But they are surfacing the road right now, and so work is ongoing, and so soon those roads will be ready for the public, the general public, to use. So we also have through the Regional Disaster Vulnerability Project, that is a project that is being implemented right now. A number of schools, I think about 39 schools, are seeing major repairs and upgrades throughout the island, and so that is also ongoing. A lot of our small contractors are engaged in implementing those projects, and so that is where the impact is in terms of job creation. We are working also on a very important project in St. David's, establishing a department, a fire department at the St. David's police station. I know we recently had a fire in St. David's, and there was a call for that. I recall some time back I was on a radio program and somebody indicated that to trade off work on the fire department for some other expenditure, and I said, I make the point that sometimes it's only when we are personally impacted by something we understand how important those services are, and so we are happy that we are getting ready to have that department up and running, completed. We are currently working on the designs for that department, and we should have it sorted out in this quarter as well. I know that the police, they have procured or procuring a fire tender for St. David's. So instead of the truck having to respond all the way from St. George's or Grenville to a fire in St. David's, there will be one proper right in St. David's just at the back of the police station. I think that is an excellent development for the community. And I think really want to, that is something that Prime Minister had worked closely and really pushed for us to have done. And the whole idea is that every parish and even some communities should have a fire response. So we are working towards that. For the persons listening out there in Pidimantlik, I know that they are working also on having to replace the fire tender for Pidimantlik as well. Last conversation I had with the commissioner, I know that they're working on that. So we will see some response in regard to that area. Also, most importantly, the Simon Cultural Center, we are finalizing the designs, and we should have this quarter have that project tendered out so that persons can express bids on that project. So we are very, very excited with the project. The parliamentary rep, she's on top of that project as well. So that is where we are. So this quarter we should see some movements, significant movements on the Simon Cultural Center. We have the Grenville Commercial Complex. That is a long-awaited project. A number of persons are excited about that project, and especially in the St. Andrews area. And that project, we have all the designs ready, all the bill of quantities ready to go out, and so that project will go to tender this quarter as well. So that is a quite exciting development.
Absolutely.
So we have a number of projects going good. We have also the traffic light, the retrofitting of the traffic light.
I didn't want to bring that one up yet because there's a lot of clarification that needs to happen.
We deal with things head on, and I think I'd offer a significant clarification. Even I was in another program last night.
Right.
It's just specifically drilling down on the traffic light project and offered some clarity. And so I think I should speak on it too here today as well.
Absolutely.
First of, and I think I'll try to go through it logically so that we have some serious clarity on the project and why we are doing this and what is happening with it. Now, it is clear, and I think what I first need to make clear is that why are we having why traffic lights? We had traffic lights before. We are just replacing it, repairing it in some cases. Now, the system that we had before is antiquated. It was dysfunctional, and technology changes very quickly.
Absolutely.
So sometimes you cannot get replacement parts. So we have to change out. Now, what is the purpose of traffic lights? Traffic lights are there to regulate the safe flow of traffic, to keep pedestrians safe and vehicles safe, to avoid, to reduce the frequency of accidents, incidents, and generally to regulate the flow of traffic. That is what traffic lights are used for throughout the entire world.
Right.
And in Grenada is no different. Now, so we are trying to put those back and as I indicated last night, when you get to down at Radisson at Food Fair Junction in Granite, it's a cat and mouse game that going on there. It's who turn first, who turn in here. Somebody trying to cross the pedestrian crossing. and even myself, I had a close incident recently as yesterday.
Wow.
Because I was blindsided by a vehicle. Somebody was crossing the pedestrian crossing, and I picked up that person very late.
Wow.
And so that is what is actually happening. So I can tell you, I experienced it myself, and I felt bad. It's like I almost hit somebody on the road because of all these vehicles, everybody just piling up, going here, going there, and you cannot see the pedestrian crossing clearly. And so that is an issue, and we need to correct this.
Yes.
While we haven't had any major incident or accident, it doesn't mean that what is happening now is the correct thing to do. And it's for that reason that we are trying our best to have that retrofitted. So that is where we are. Now, this project is a grant-funded project. So it's not a loan, it's not local revenue, it's a grant-funded project. So.
Right.
We need to clarify that.
Absolutely.
And
I don't know where this $13 million come from.
Was 30, not 30.
$30 million.
Yeah. Well, we done some investigation because we were puzzled, and we have an idea where it came from, and it was a error. It was a mix-up with another significant project. Yes, where some figure of 30 million was referenced. At the same time, some work was being done on the traffic light project, and so somebody left that meeting, was a virtual meeting with some. I don't know if I hope it's by mistake. I don't know if it's deliberate. I can't say, but that is what we believe happened.
Okay.
Yes, because when we look back, there is nothing that we could have found where that could have happened.
That figure could
so
come
we
from.
are quite certain it's because at that particular meeting that is where that thing came from. So the project has been the bids have been submitted. Currently, what we did, we put together an evaluation team, and just for clarity how it is done. So we make our recommendations. for persons to evaluate the project, and the evaluation committee, that committee we will send that to the procurement board for the procurement board to approve, to give an objection for that committee to do the work to evaluate the bids. And so I can say that we have 3 companies. One company is a Chinese company that submitted a bid. We have a Bahamian company that submitted a bid, and we have a company from Trinidad and Tobago. So those are the 3 companies with the requisite who believe that they have the requisite expertise and competence to implement such a project. So the project will see the purchasing of the equipment, install, and also you would have a period of maintenance and monitoring period thereafter, and it will also encompass training for our local persons here to supervise and manage the facility and equipment thereafter through the RJPF as well. So that is where we are with that project.
All right.
So
there is a caller on the line. I think we want to take this call, and then we'll move on to any more projects that we have to reference. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, Miss Pascal. How are you doing?
Miss Duncan.
Sorry, Miss Duncan. Sorry.
I'm fine. How are you?
I was talking to her just a moment ago. I'm regarding I think first time I've seen this gentleman there. I can't remember. I don't know his name.
Oh, that's our Honorable Minister for Infrastructure, Honorable Minister Nolan Cox.
Okay,
morning,
all right.
sir.
Okay, morning. How are you doing?
I'm fine, thanks.
Okay, I understand you made a reference to Chinese. There's a Chinese company. Now, at the end of the day, we have Chinese people. You know, they always come with their people. Yeah. Many times you see they come as their people. So the local, by what I'm trying to say is that our local people really don't benefit from Chinese company coming in to do work in Grenada, because when you had CCC used to have a lot of Grenadian people. So you're seeing the effect of the economy that rolls in the Grenada. Where in the Chinese company coming in here, we do not see that effect in our people that are, we don't see that the economic part of it coming to Grenadian people.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, thank you for your comment.
Yeah. And the next thing is I don't know. I think they're still in the meeting. Maybe you're not in a position to make this comment, but Ms. Duncan, regarding I think the Vincentian people coming to Grenada, there will be. I understood that there will be some tourists coming in as well. So I hope the people Grenadian people are informed, because I know there are certain individuals quickly misled the Grenadian people. So I hope the people from the government side come and inform.
I just want to clarify. You understand that there is some tourists coming in, or that is something that has been confirmed?
Speaking to one of my good friends in the hotel sector, there are some tourists coming in from St. Vincent. That is a tourist.
Evacuees.
Yeah.
Okay.
But among the people,
because we have to be careful when we reference these things, because someone listening can.
There are some tourists there who will be
right, but they are evacuees from St. Vincent. It's not just tourists coming in on the in the secret.
Yeah, not the intentions. There are some.
No,
I think the government having some sort of dialogue right now. So probably during the course of the time they will be. But
right.
I know since I hear this, I say it's better that government come and make it clear that. I was going to. The misleading part of it, I don't like it.
Right.
You understand that? Like, be correctly informed, because, just like the union thing that is going on, the union all kind of rhetoric, and then they don't understand the point the government is trying to make, and they just go on and make a blunder of it.
Right. Understood.
Yeah. You understand what I was trying to say?
Yes.
Yes, please. So
all right.
I prefer a clear explanation being given, so people understand. They say, "Oh, Grenadian having Vincentians in Grenada all over the place."
Understood.
That is, we don't want that. We want to say exactly who is coming in and what it is about. Yeah.
Understood. Thank you so much for your comments.
Bye bye.
All right. Goodbye. Let me first speak to that comment he made. What is going to happen? At some point today, there will be a press conference. I believe that the heads are meeting right now, and I think a meeting convened with over 40 individuals in the private sector, along with the Honorable Minister for Carriacou and the Honorable Minister for Health. They all met at some point today to discuss what will happen, because we did extend our support to the Vincentians and to the Vincentian government, and we will be taking evacuees. I think a sit-down did happen this morning concerning how that process will go forward, and a press conference will be done subsequently. I think sometimes when we see things happening, we're just a little impatient to wait for information, but it will happen. And of course, I just want to clarify what the gentleman was saying. He's not saying that tourists are coming to Grenada. It's evacuees, I assume, from different islands, from hotels in that area, with sister islands in Grenada, with sister hotels in Grenada, may take tourists from one island to the next. And these things usually happen when there is a disaster in one or the other island in the region. So we just want to clarify that quickly. But Minister Cox, do you want to respond to the gentleman's comment as it relates to when Chinese individuals are, and I won't say contracted, because in most cases when Chinese come to Grenada to do any projects is as a result of their funding. They would usually fund a project and they would send their individuals to come and work on that project, if it's a grant or a gift or something of that nature. So do you want to speak on that at all?
Well, I can speak briefly. I understand the context in which the caller raised the differences and the disparities, and you're quite right. It has to do in the context of how the work is funded. Mm-hmm. And so if we are funding a project, we as government, there are stipulations that we can embed in our contract to generate whatever outcome we want to create that impact. In terms of, we can say, materials have to buy locally and things like that. So I understand his concern, and we are very sensitive to Grenadians being impacted positively right now in terms of a job. But as regards to this project, we are not there yet in terms of who is the selected person. Mm-hmm. So that those concerns are noted. And I think it is honorable to hear our fellow Grenadians reaching out to ensure that our Grenadians are engaged in a positive way at this difficult time where job creation is concerned. So I want to thank him very much for that observation. Thank you.
All right. Do we have any other projects that we want to reference quickly before? We have a lot of projects small projects that are ongoing. For the first quarter of this year, government would have expended in excess of $2 million in small contracts for small contractors out in the various communities. And so it's a whole list of projects. And so probably not to go through that long list right now, but we have those projects ongoing. Now, one of the things that I want us to quickly touch on is roads. There has been a lot of talk, a lot of conversation surrounding the state of the roads in Grenada. I know before the pandemic hit, the former Minister for Infrastructure was here, and he spoke to Grenada having an asphalt plant. He said all of the equipment was here and so on, and it was just to set it up and so on. Then the pandemic hit, and a lot of the things that we expected to happen was put on the back burner as more pressing matters took the fore. So what is the current state of that plant, and how can we get it up and running? I know there's a lot of remedial work happening on roads, a lot of patchwork and so on to fix a lot of the things that have been happening. And of course, we know that COVID has caused a backlog in a lot of the materials and so on that we would normally get to do those roads. And I don't think people really understand that aspect of it. When we look at what's happening in the world, there is obviously a problem that is preventing most of the things that would normally happen from happening. But what is the current state of that plant, and how soon can we get it, or do we foresee ourselves getting it up and running?
Well, the plant has been operational, so the material, if you notice on the roadways, you see a wide span, longer span, smooth consistency. Right. So that is material hot mix coming from the plant. So the plant has been operational for quite some time. Albeit that they had some breakdowns in between, as with everything else. You do have those challenges, but the plant have been operational. We had an engagement with them, and government indicated our demands in terms of needs, demand for road maintenance. Now, what is going to happen? Like, for example, under the feeder roads, you have some areas are going to be done with asphalt and some with concrete. So those that are going to be done with asphalt, they're going to be done with hot mix, and they're going to be done much better, and it wouldn't be done in the manner that it's been done now. So those roads are going to have to be milled and relay. So you wouldn't have those bumpy stuff. You would have that smooth consistency throughout. So that is that is what will happen. What you see happening on the roads is just basically the work of the maintenance crews. What will need to happen going forward, and what will happen as we take different roadways, you would have either a 2 or 3 kilometer of road being done properly, milled and relay with concrete mix going. Not concrete, with hot asphalt mix going forward. So that is what will happen. But the works that you're seeing now is a response from our maintenance crew, and not a dedicated contract that is given out to a contractor to relay a particular portion of road. Okay. So that is what will happen going forward.
Okay. All right. I hope that comforts the mind of some of our road users.
Well, I just want to say that road users, they have been patient for most part, and we want to recognize that and ask them to continue to work with us, and we empathize with the impact that they're having. There's been a challenging time for everybody, and now that the plant is up and running, we're going to see better road works going forward.
All right, we're going to open the lines at this time for persons who want to give us a call. If it's just to ask a question or to bring something to the attention of the minister, because oftentimes we see or hear things, and I'm sure this has happened to you. The first time you hear of something being a problem is on social media, or you hear it on the radio first, or something like that. So anybody wanting to bring something to the attention of the minister, or wanting to ask a question or make a comment, can do so. The number to call is 440-7377 if you're calling locally. If you are in the diaspora and you want to give us a call, it's 347-329-3101. You can also send us a message via WhatsApp or give us a call there as well, and post your comments on the live video as well. Someone on the live is asking, there's a road in Montu under the pasture that needs fixing. What about that road? There was an attempt in 2008 to fix the road. What is going on?
Sure, I know that road. I recently passed on that roadway. Yes, we have agreed. There is an understanding that road will continue. Also, not just the road, but drainage work. So you will see some drainage works continue for us, but a portion of the road will be also cast. Yes, that road is being considered for continued works.
There's also a question on the YouTube live video that says, what about the piece of road from the cliff to the Woodlands junction? Yes, there's that.
I'm happy that there is that road. I think I left that road out. Yes, that road, we are currently, and the last conversation I had with Minister Bowen, because he is in discussion with the bank, so the Caribbean Development Bank, they are giving us funding for that piece of road in particular. And one of the reasons why we are targeting that road, because that road, if you notice, it's breaking as well. So there are going to be some reinforcement required, just as you leave the cliff coming down, and there are some houses at the bottom. They are going to be impacted as well. So yes, that road is being considered right now, currently as we speak. Yes.
All right. We seem to be having a little technical problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a short break, Minister, while we address that. We do have a caller on the line, so let me see if we could get that caller, and maybe that might fix our problem. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, good morning to you, Ms. Duncan and Minister.
Morning.
Yeah, I joined the program a little bit late, but from my listening, I heard Minister Cox was giving an update on a number of projects. Could you just give an update on the project at Sates? Well, we usually see people usually refer to the breakwater, but to me, the breakwater area is a
Covered,
safer area. It's the erosion that takes place lower down the
At the Mount Rodney, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So currently we have a company, Smith Warner International. They are currently doing what you call a feasibility study. So what they are doing, they are monitoring all the wave action, the currents, and they will do some modeling and to see exactly what is happening, why the impact is coming, even at what strength they will be measuring all that. And they are to prepare a feasibility study and to come up with a design for us to respond to that coastal erosion. So that work is currently ongoing, and we to receive that final designs and study as soon as they will be completed within the next month or so. I haven't heard any indications of any delays, but we should receive that back within this quarter. So the work is ongoing. As soon as that is done, it is my expectation that there will be a community meeting where the findings are going to be discussed or presented to the community, to the people of Sotes, so they can see for themselves what was extracted from that study. So thank you very much for that.
All right. Let me see if we have any more questions on the live video. No questions on. There was a gentleman, Minister Cox, who he frequent calls the program to speak about a road, and I'm trying to remember now because I want to do his question justice. Coconut Road in Tempe. He said that there's a bridge or something of the sort there. If that caller is listening, I would hope that he would
if I could recall, I do know that work is ongoing on that road.
It's ongoing there.
If there is an additional problem with the work, then yes, we can look into it. But I know that work is going on the Coconut Road as we speak.
All right. We have a call on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Yes, I got cut off, but I think I was able to follow somewhat on my phone, on the cell phone. Yeah, but there is another thing, Miss Duncan, that I'm a bit concerned every time I hear our people in terms of that sort of prejudice against the Chinese people and Chinese company or firm or and so on. I have a concern over that. I find sometimes I don't know what creates that kind of phobia. Every time we hear about China or Chinese name, it starts creating I don't know, what should I say, fear. I don't know if this is reasonable, but I don't understand why. Because I know, for example, when I was still on the job, if you were going to get some assistance, help from whether it was an American company, British, or wherever, there are some conditions that are laid down. You have to either source the materials, equipment, or whatever from them.
Yeah,
and a lot of the consultancy was done by them.
Yeah.
And
that is correct. That's what happened.
I don't know. Additionally, last evening, I was sent a video. In fact, one of Nadma's chat, that is the Branch St. Patrick's West area. So the committee. So I saw this thing on my phone, right? I watched the video because it was sent to me, and I asked the question: has that eruption taken place in St. Vincent? And I was waiting on a response, and I think the response was yes. But I couldn't believe that video that I saw, that I was looking at, would have taken place in St. Vincent. And we have to be very, very careful about these things.
Of course.
We have to be so and this thing is so commonplace. People, we tend to delight in this kind of propaganda, misinformation, come on, we have to do better than that as a people. Sometimes you think, me, it irritates me, it annoys, Why is it that these are the things that we are going to get involved in to create fear?
Yeah.
To instill fear into the minds of people. Now, the first eruption took place sometime around 8:40 something this morning.
Yeah, 8:41.
8:41 thereabout. But we created this, this panic way ahead, this kind of panicky situation, and so on. So my appeal to our people is that we have to do better than that. We have to engage in activities that are more helpful, more beneficial to our people. This morning I heard a call on the two callers, and especially one in particular. I'm not going to call his name, but he's a regular caller to the programs. Mr. Know It All. He has the cure for everything. He has the panacea for just about everything. And he was talking about, for example, they were talking about the recent appointment of, is it a CEO? No, he's one of the marketing, the marketing
of GT,
of
Grenada
person. And whether the opportunity was afforded to a Grenadian force, or whatever the argument would have been. But what the caller was saying was that since tourism seems to be a major pillar of our economy, and the authorities, the powers that be, seem to be concentrating a lot on tourism and so on. But look at what has been happening over the years. We have not had people trained to pick up positions, to pick up such positions and that kind of thing at that level. And I listen to the call, and so I say, somebody who's supposed to know better, because it sounds like music to the ears of a lot of people. He's euphonic in terms of, and he feels, well, he's a radio person, he could speak on radio and so on. But I'm saying, so my goodness me, as citizens of Grenada, so if we're interested in the tourism sector, right, in that we have seen the huge investments that have been taking place in the tourism sector, and not necessarily by the government, by the private sector. So we know, so we anticipate the positions that are going to be available after this project are completed, right, and so on. So why can't our people, if we have an interest, start getting ourselves trained in the different areas so that we could take advantage of the situation? I'm not saying that government should not be helpful or cannot be helpful there, right? But in terms of is what people want to study, is the areas that people are show interest in. But sometimes we mislead people and we give people the impression that government and politicians are responsible for everything. It's just like the issue with the public servants and the teachers. When I hear responsible people who are supposed to know better saying, well, why keep Michelle, or why the government not pay the people the money? It's like the money is available there, and spitefully the government doesn't want to pay to the teachers and the public officers. This is misleading information. We should be involved in something more profitable, more beneficial to our people, to help educate our people. When we talk the way we talk, like there's a program on GVF called what? Talk the thing or release it and them nonsense. I wonder how effective, how helpful are these programs. At the end of the day, after this old talk, after this radio program is finished, people are not better, people are worse off, because it's helping people, they are causing people to think that it's okay to remain in the situation that they are and to depend on somebody. Somebody else is responsible for the situation, for the conditions. Come on. We need to help people and not cause people to stay where they are and feel it and believe and blame and think somebody else is responsible for where we are. The situation that we might be in. And the contradiction is that, on the other hand, when the government moves to help people, they're talking about handouts and where poverty is widespread and this and that and the other. Well, what are we engaging in? What are we engaging in? I want us to do something much more beneficial to our people, to help our people in a meaningful way. And as I say, sometimes I question, what is education? And education is important that people have education, people are educated, but sometimes the kind of education we have, apart from coming and give an exercise in public in academia, in academics, what else do we do to help our people really? That's my point, What else do we do? More than to stir up confusion, to cause unnecessary, fear and that kind of thing in the minds of people, So my appeal, as I say, is that our people who are in responsible position and who are supposed to know better, don't try to jump on every bandwagon for whatever reason, and you believe that you could piggyback on a situation and to get where you want to get, to achieve your goals or your objective, or you might be using people to achieve such a goal and objective. I believe, as a people, as a nation, We need to work together, and that's only how things are going to be changed. I was saying to somebody, some person yesterday in St. Andrews while I was in Grenville, that if you because somebody was critical about some situation, and say, well, what are you doing about it? You cannot be looking from the outside or you're on the periphery, and all you do is to criticize and condemn and so on. You got to be the change that you want to see, or you have to get involved to help, initiate, to bring about that change, effect that change that we want to see.
Yeah.
And that is my appeal. And sometimes it gives my heart because I really, really want to be in a different place. And I said to them, so would my grandchildren, great-grandchildren be talking about what we are talking about now? So the conversation that we are having here now, you mean that our grandchildren, and great-grand will be having that same conversation? We would not have moved from where we are? Come on.
It's a scary
I really
thought.
want our people to, let's wake up and smell the coffee as a people.
All right. Thank you so much for your contribution.
Bye.
Okay, goodbye. Yeah, Minister, I know you wanted to comment on the conditionalities of various projects when they are given to us, but I want you to hold on to that thought because we have a caller on the line. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
This is a call to the minister. Pertaining to the Library Road. There was a sum of money that was spent on the Library Road for drainage and so on. And just recently, they brought a bulldozer there and bulldozed everything. What's the reason for that already? Because the Library Road was not in very, very bad condition. I mean, there is lots of road in Grenada that is worse than the Library Road. And they started to do some work there, put up blocks and sort of a thing, and they just bring a bulldozer and bulldoze everything there. I mean, come on.
Thank you very much, caller.
Could you explain to that?
Sure, I will respond to that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, caller. All right. So on the Library Road is one of the roads that is under the feeder roads project. And what happened at the Library Road is that the contractor, at no fault to him, is operating with a design that was prepared by a company. The contractor is Hanover Construction Company, and the design was prepared by a company called W.I. However, in the implementation of the designs for the road, the contractor did indicate that, look, there are errors, there are issues with the designs, and as such, there were need for variations. So what happened that they had to because it's a contractual agreement, the government would have contracted W.I. to supervise the project. So government is not directly on the project like on a daily basis.
Right.
So you hire somebody and you're the client and they are supervising the project for you. So that is where the issue came about. The designs were flawed, and no fault of the contractor. The contractor was only following instructions from the supervisory firm. So when we got wind of what was happening, the ministry stepped in and stopped the project and also had the drawings redone to correct those errors. And that is the reason why we have those variations taking place. Yes, there are going to be some cost implications for those changes. And it's because of those designs, that was the reason for that. And we are working closely with all parties to ensure that we minimize that cost impact as much as possible. And so what has happened there, we are put structures in place to ensure that it wouldn't happen on the other projects going forward. So we are looking at designs closely, having surveyors to come back on the ground to run measurements, get levels to ensure that everything is done properly. So that is what has happened, and as a result of that. So we have since corrected that. We want to thank the people of Library for cooperating with us and working with us during this process. But we are going to complete the road in its entirety, and they're going to have a better road network facility when we are completed. that is what transpired. So thank you very much for raising that concern, but and we are happy to give an explanation as to what transpired.
All right. So now we can get back to the conditionalities of grant fundings and gifts and so on. When a country decides that, okay, we're going to give you a gift of, let's take the National Stadium for example, which was gifted to us by the Chinese, and when repairs are being done, as a matter of fact, it's ongoing now. Repairs
Correct.
on the National Stadium is ongoing right now, and one of the conditions, I believe, is that they send their crew and so on to deal with that. But tell us more about the conditionalities.
So let me explain, and I think it's important that for us as a government and people we must express thanks to the people and government of the People's Republic of China for their enormous contribution and support towards the development of this country. We are grateful for the support. They have given support in terms of infrastructure development for sports, for housing, as we see the housing units that have been built now and those that were done before. We have in Carriacou, we have in St. Mark's, we have in Bossejou, St. Patrick's, and St. David's that are currently under construction. So we are very grateful for that. Also, as we speak of the stadium, yes, work is going on the athletic stadium right now. And there is also work planned and agreed on. We have already signed and agreed on repair work on the cricket stadium. That has not commenced. I think COVID is what stopped that from happening.
Right.
So the government agreed that we are not expending, that is grant support. What government will do is facilitate it by way of concessions for and things like that for whatever maybe materials that might come in or so, or even materials purchased locally. But the repair work, all that is grant support. That is part of the economic development agreement that we have between the People's Republic of China and Grenada. And to get back, so I just wanted to put that out there. I think it's important that we recognize their contribution, and we are very appreciative of that. And I think
Absolutely.
It's important that we mention that.
Yes.
There are a number of our students have studied in China and are studying and will be leaving soon to go to China if they haven't left us yet, by way of scholarship at no cost to the government of Grenada. I think that is one of the most important investment that we can make in our people, giving them an opportunity to go out there to study, learn something, and to make not only themselves proud, their family, but also Grenada proud. And the People's Republic of China is doing that together with us, in partnership with us, and we are very appreciative. I don't think that there isn't anybody who got an opportunity to study feel differently about that support. So in speaking about the terms and conditions, and there is no different. While there is significant attention placed on the Chinese for whatever reason, you have support that you get from the United States government or the European government, or the case may be, and a significant portion of those funds goes back for consultancies,
Right.
and the consultants are from those countries or those territories.
Right.
And those are some of the things that stipulate sometimes some of the projects that we have. More than 80% of it go into administrative costs,
Right.
and only about 20% is tangibles. So there are terms and conditions when you're receiving grant support, and you have to understand that the people of those countries who give you the grant support, they may want their people to benefit from it in some way out of it. So it is something that we have to work on, and we continue to work with them to ensure that all people benefit. So not just receiving the structure, but in terms of the implementation part, that we receive jobs, materials, services, products and services are impacted in a positive way here in Grenada from through sales for that truckman equipment and things like that. So we understand that, but I think it's important to make the point that is not unique to only one country. That goes across every country that is providing funding support.
All right. Now, Minister, do you have any closing words? Or I do want to ask as well if you have any words of comfort, words of caution for the people of Carriacou and P.T. Martin, because I know that's your home, as it relates to what's currently happening in St. Vincent. Now, we know that our islands are very close. The Grenada Islands are also very close to Carriacou, and we would want our people to be vigilant in terms of people trying to evacuate the island of St. Vincent, but also trying to come to our island illegally. And while it is a very, very difficult situation to really hunker down on and to add any one fix to, we still want our people to be vigilant, and to also understand that, COVID is still around, yes. So we have to ensure that they keep their eyes open and the authorities are informed of any activities that may not be along the lines of what we expect to happen as we welcome Vincentian evacuees into our country.
Well, as I said before, and I think there's a clear opportunity to link both, and I'll speak to when I say both, what I mean is that for me, I have immediate family who have Vincentians. Right. Immediate and in terms of, I can say, siblings.
Right.
All right. And so I understand. I haven't had a call from them as yet, but I do expect to reach out to them today. Mm-hmm. Now, what is going to happen is that as Carriacouans, we are always welcoming. And I know that persons who have that close ties, they are already calling their friend, their colleagues.
Right.
What's going on? Do you need this? Do you need that? Maybe boats might want to go over to help bring supplies and things like that. So that is the kind of response that we're going to see. And getting to the other part of it, which is the issue of the pandemic. And the vaccine, and I think that's where I want to close off on. Mm-hmm. And we are seeing now that persons who have been, for whatever reason, they don't want to get vaccine, they are asked that and informed that it's a mandatory that they take the vaccine before they are evacuated to any of the neighboring countries. So I say this, and this morning I've been thinking about this. Now we have some of our persons here, citizens here, who have reservations about taking the vaccine, and don't feel that they should take it or we should take it. There are some people advocating strongly against taking it. But I ask this question: are you comfortable with somebody coming from St. Vincent now, and you probably been advocating over through social media not to take it? Are you going to open your doors to them to come? Are you going to do that knowing that they have active cases out there and community spread to be factual? Are you saying no, fine, don't take it? So is it okay for persons coming from St. Vincent now to come here unvaccinated? Are you okay with that? And I think that is the question. That is the pivotal question that the persons who are advocating not to take the vaccine, are you going to welcome them, or are you going to tell them don't come because so yeah. So I say this because sometimes I'm confused. I'm confused how, and I said this as recently last night on another program. Where we are right now, we cannot do what it is that we want to do. One, because there is a pandemic.
Right.
Persons are saying, look, I'm not taking any vaccine. But you don't want to catch COVID. On top of that, you still want to do what you're accustomed doing. You don't want to follow the protocols, you don't want to wear masks, but you don't want to catch COVID. You still want to have carnival, you still want to have everything. The two just can't happen. You just can't. You cannot want everything to go back as normal.
Absolutely.
And not create a risk of having a significant spread or a run on the health sector here. It just can't happen.
Yeah.
And the only way that the only option that we have in front of us right now is for us to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
Now, if everybody is waiting for the other person to wait for COVID to magically disappear, we might be waiting for quite some time. And based on what I'm seeing in terms of our response to getting vaccinated, where we are now, a year from now, we may be in the same position, or worse.
Yeah.
Because the longer you take to get yourself protected, it only means that you're increasing your risk.
Yeah.
So I am not a medical person, but I don't think no amount of a bush tea or all kind of concussion
It's true.
is going to protect you unless you follow the science.
Yeah.
And the science is what has caused us to be in this relatively safe position where we are. So why shouldn't we follow this? It's not magic. It's the science. We have been trying to approach to respond to this in a scientific way.
Yeah.
We have been doing the testing, trapping persons at the border as best as we can to create that safe, comfortable feeling for persons here.
Yeah.
And so we are saying no. We are in a situation where we are relatively quiet in terms of infection and activity. And so use this opportunity now to protect yourself in the event that something, because it only takes one person to escape,
Oh, yes.
One,
Just
only one.
Yeah.
And everything, it can be a mess. We saw it in December.
Yeah.
Everybody started to run crazy. But we, again, through the application of the science, in terms of the contact tracing, in terms of the testing, in terms of the quarantining, isolating, we were able to go past that. And so I really call on persons to just sit. I know that some persons may have some degree of fear, but to sit and to think this thing logically through. If you're thinking about your grandparents, the persons who are senior and who are most vulnerable in this course, think about it. Think about what you're doing and how your actions can and may impact your family. And we are seeing enough videos to inform us of the gravity of this disease, this virus. The impact it has on the lives of people. We were just reading an article last night. Brazil had over 4,000 deaths. Per day, 4,000 deaths. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know what more we can do. As a government, we have done our best to protect our people. We have made the necessary investments. Our frontline workers have gone all out to ensure to keep us safe. But the waiting, I don't know what the waiting. I think just waiting, I don't know. I don't know what the waiting is for. We have an opportunity to protect ourselves now, and I think that we should.
We should. I agree.
Yeah, we should.
I agree.
So I really make a plea for persons to take your time. If you're not certain, maybe call on a friend, reach out to the Ministry of Health. There are persons there who can help you through this, walk you through it, talk you, get the necessary information for you to make that informed decision to get yourself vaccinated. There's so much stuff out there that can muddle your decision, and that is it. And we see what is taking place. I think St. Kitts, yesterday, the Prime Minister was very. I saw a video from a public address from the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. He spoke strongly about the direction which they are going. That he doesn't have a problem with the private sector making it mandatory for employees to get vaccinated if they're to return to the workplace.
Right.
We saw in St. Vincent, there are strong considerations for workers in the public sector, not just the private.
Public sector workers, yeah.
Because of the situation is that if we don't get moving, it's going to affect everybody.
Yeah. Health,
financially and otherwise. So where we are now, I believe it has been a national response. Every citizen has done their part to ensure that we are where we are now. And all that is required is for us to protect ourselves by getting vaccinated, and we're going to be fine.
Okay. Well, I thank you so much, Minister, for taking the time to come out and speak with us today as it relates to what is happening in the area of infrastructure in Grenada. And I assume that as time goes by and as projects begin to develop, that we would have more time to sit and to converse surrounding that. And of course, it is wonderful to hear, that we do have all of these possibilities, all of these projects, all of these things happening. And of course, we encourage people to, sometimes we hear a lot of things, but information is not hard to find, especially here in Grenada. You just have to ask the right people. And when I say the right people, I mean, you don't have no big set of connections. You just, there's a project going on and you want information. You can't call the Ministry of Health. You got to call the Ministry of Works, right? Ask the right people the right questions and you would get the correct answers, right? So we thank you so much for taking the time to come out and to speak with us, and we hope to speak with you again soon. Guys, I just want to inform that there will be a press conference happening, I believe, in the next, they said 11:30, but we'll give or take a few minutes, and that is going to be facilitated by the Honourable Minister for Health and Social Security, Honourable Minister Nicholas Steele, the Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sean Charles, Dr. Berth Braffis of the COVID Committee, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Michael Francois, and the National Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Benedict Peters. So we will be having a press conference very soon from these individuals who will provide more information surrounding what is going to happen with the evacuees coming into Grenada. As far as I understand it, St. Vincent has so far evacuated close to 4,300 persons and continue to evacuate because geologists are now saying that they are uncertain as to seismologists are saying that they are uncertain as to the extent of the ashfall, as the extent of what the eruption is going to do. And this is generally what happens with Mother Nature and these things. There's a great deal of uncertainty. So at this time, we are asking that individuals tune in, listen to what is happening, because apart from the fact that we are inviting persons into our country, we are inviting persons from a country where there is active known community spread of COVID-19. So we are putting ourselves at a risk, but it's a risk that's really worth it, because you can't look at your brother and sister out there going through these difficult times. And I remember we went through our difficult time as well with Hurricane Ivan, and we do not know what is in store for us. So we always have to be as charitable as possible and hope that these blessings are returned to us. So stay tuned for the live press conference that will be held by these individuals, Minister of Health, the CMO, and other persons from the COVID team, along with the team from NADMA, that would be informing us on the process of how it's going to take place, because apart from there being this need, there's also a health risk that we have to take into consideration. So guys, it's been a pleasure speaking with you here. Of course, I ask that you keep the people of St. Vincent in your prayers. I recently looked at scrolling through while I'm on the live video here, social media, and I'm looking at the Prime Minister of St. Vincent. I couldn't hear what he was saying, obviously, but I saw the pain in his face, and when I saw those tears roll down his face, I mean, that really did it for me. So you know they're going through a terrible situation. You know they're going through a trying time. And I believe no prime minister in the region would want to be in his situation right now. So we must lend our support and our prayers as much as is possible, and do as much as we can as individuals, not just as government of Grenada can do for them, but as individuals, as people of Grenada, as much as we can do, we should in this trying time. So have a wonderful weekend, guys. It's been a pleasure speaking with you, as we say here every day, in whatever you do and whatever you say. Be safe and be secure. We always want to be talking with you, but we do not ever want to be talking about you. So please do enjoy the remainder of your day, and stay tuned for, well, the press conference followed by the national report. It's been a pleasure, guys.
Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. Thank you so much for joining us for this press conference this morning on such short notice. But the government of Grenada thought it best that we provide a very prompt update to the nation following another meeting of the National Emergency Advisory Committee, which was held earlier this morning. The focus of this press conference will be Grenada's planned acceptance of evacuees from St. Vincent and the Grenadines if the need arises. As you may be aware by now, as of 8:41 this morning, April 9th, there was an explosive eruption at the La Soufrière volcano in St. Vincent. Prior to that, however, based on the increased activity detected by scientists monitoring the volcano, the Vincentian Prime Minister, Honorable Ralph Gonsalves, issued an evacuation order for the high-risk areas. In an immediate show of support, and in solidarity with the Vincentian people, Grenada's Prime Minister, Dr. the Right Honorable Keith Mitchell, reiterated the country's pledge to accept evacuees. Immediately thereafter, the National Emergency Advisory Committee met in emergency session last night, and another meeting was held this morning. Hence our presence here now to update you. With me this morning, I have the Minister responsible for disaster management, Senator Winston Garraway, Dr. Bert Braffett of the COVID-19 Subcommittee, Deputy Commissioner of Police, Mr. Michael Francois, and National Disaster Coordinator, Mr. Benedict Peters. Thank you so much to members of the media and, of course, the listening and viewing public for joining us this morning. Senator Garraway, I'll turn first over to you to bring us up to date on where we're at this moment.
Thank you very much, Press Secretary Robinson, and good morning to the nation, those viewing and those listening to us at this point in time. It is indeed a very somber moment for us as a nation as we reflect on the experiences that our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent are currently experiencing. As you were advised, scientists this morning reported that at 8:41 we had an explosion at the Soufrière volcano. as plumes of ash rose to up to 8 kilometers high. The government of Grenada reiterates its commitment to support our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Following the NEAC emergency meeting last night and again this morning at 9 a.m., it is an opportune time to update the nation on the preparations that are currently underway. The COVID-19 committee will advise on the health protocols in place. The RGPF will address the security, and NADMA, of course, will update on the general readiness of the agency to coordinate our response. At this time, we are not able to say the number of evacuees we are expected to host and the expected time frame. However, we have been advised by the government of St. Vincent that there are several steps to be taken on their end before the formal movements of the citizens to other Caribbean islands. As such, our approach is to ensure that we have all our required support systems in place to be activated once formal notification has been given to us. Of high priority is the continued safety of our citizens, as we are still in the middle of a pandemic. We cannot afford to let our guards down. Therefore, we will be stepping up on our surveillance to ensure that we continue to effectively manage the crisis as we have been doing. Additionally, we are carefully monitoring developments on our sister isles. We are well aware of the close ties between the islands. We know that many families and friends will want to come home. Our concern is that these persons may do so undetected and undocumented. The border remains closed. However, we are prepared to facilitate entry in a controlled manner to keep everyone safe. We are asking our people to assist us in making sure that we are able to manage entry into Carriacou. We want to register, test, and quarantine and medically clear such persons before they can integrate within the various communities. Further details of the process will be communicated in the coming days. It is important for us to note that this emergency, this crisis that we are responding to, is one that can be drawn out over a long period of time, or it could be a short exercise or experience. But one thing we do know for sure, it's a dangerous exercise. And I will want to alert the nation at this point in time that with the explosion and the emission of ashes, the need to continue to wear masks is obviously of critical importance to ensure that our people who are affected with respiratory problems are secured. And of course, I want to believe Dr. Braffett will expound on this. In closing, I want to say to the nation, this is a moment or a time when we are expected to continue to be neighborly to our brothers and sisters of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. As we can all appreciate, this potential evacuation of persons from St. Vincent and the Grenadines comes in the middle of a global health crisis. So that obviously is a concerning factor for many of us. With us here this morning is Dr. Bert Braffett of the COVID-19 subcommittee. Dr. Braffett, what can you add to the discussion at this point?
Thank you for me. First of all, let me to all our viewers and listeners, let me apologize for the absence of Dr. Sean Charles, who himself is caught up, who's a member of the COVID health subcommittee, but who's caught up in yet another meeting at a regional level with his fellow chief medical officers. We, as minister, what Gary would have alluded to, anytime there is a disaster, there are going to be health implications. With hurricanes, there are health implications, earthquakes even more. And certainly volcanoes will cause problems. When you add that to the present situation where there's a global pandemic with COVID, then you can see that the risks, we now are at increased risk of the spread of COVID and amongst ourselves, and obviously we have to be careful as we allow evacuees and relatives and friends to come over, that we monitor the process. So the intention of the Ministry of Health is to have all individuals. It's going to be important for any individuals who come in to go to certain centers to be quarantined first, where they will have first rapid antigen tests, and that those rapid antigen tests allow and result within a few minutes, and then they'll be subjected to PCR testing, and that takes a bit longer. Obviously, the samples have to be sent. If the individuals come into Carriacou, the samples have to be sent to Grenada, so it takes longer to get the result. Meanwhile, we obviously have to look after their well-being wherever they're situated. So to have them tested, obviously, one has to help with the emotional state as well, because it cannot be easy. Leaving your home, leaving everything, all your possessions in many cases, especially those who are closest to the center of the volcano, I would sense, and having to be dislocated and find yourself in another place. So that testing is going to go on and be on the mainland here, and on the mainland, we will be working closely in conjunction with St. George's University. They have been kind enough to have a number of rooms made available to us on the Grenada campus. And many of these rooms had already been modified to assist us in our COVID work, but there's going to be further work going on that. As we speak, it is probably ongoing and over the next few days in readiness for any numbers of people who have to come over and seek shelter here and to be with us for some period of time. So this is one aspect of it. The other aspect of it is how we ourselves react, because as Dr. Charles would have advised members of the committee last night, first of all those individuals who are involved in care of people should themselves seek to get vaccinated. That is very important. Now, when you get vaccinated, that does not mean that you're protected immediately. It's going to take some 3 weeks or so for your antibody levels to build up to afford you some measure of protection. That's not full protection. Full protection is when you have had 2 shots of the vaccine. But it becomes more incumbent on individuals who are working with the process, and indeed the public as a whole, because in a situation like this, there's increased risk of transmission of COVID, especially as we reflect on how people have been behaving in recent days and weeks and over the last weekend. It might be a time to make people pause and pull back a bit, stop the lot of partying, because you're going to be even more at risk. Even if the evacuees and themselves not going to be partying, this is not something one would be anticipating and one would be seeking to prevent until they're cleared. But nevertheless, once this happens, there's going to be increased risk of transmission of the disease here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Braffett. Now, even as we address the public health concerns amidst this situation, there are also some national security issues at stake as we consider the potential acceptance of evacuees from another country. We have with us Deputy Commissioner of Police, Michael Francois. DCP?
Thank you, Philo, and a pleasant good morning to all. And as Philo rightly said, this crisis would create additional burden on the Royal Grenada Police Force, but one that we have been planning for some time now. And we have activated, the Royal Grenada Police Force has activated its response operation plan to this situation that is unfolding in St. Vincent at this time. And so as soon as we received information sometime yesterday afternoon that the crisis, the situation has changed, we would have activated our plan and deployed several police officers into Carriacou. That would also augment the activities at Petit Martinique as well. So sending, we would have sent an additional asset to Carriacou in the Coast Guard, and we would have had an increase in number of immigration officers that are stationed there. We would have increased that as well. Additionally, SSU personnel has been increased as well, and regular police officers. So we are now in a state of alert with respect to monitoring activities, not only in Carriacou and Petit Martinique, but on the mainland in Grenada, because we would have adopted a two-pronged approach. As you're aware, we have persons who are coming into Grenada in response to the invitation of the Grenada government, which would be on one hand, and then we have several persons who want to use the opportunity to engage in illegal activity. And as I say that, just this morning, in our operational response, we would have picked up a Vincentian national who in collusion with the Grenadians, and several pounds of cannabis and firearm and rounds of ammunition. So as we respond to this particular crisis with persons who are coming in, there are those on the other hand who will be using the occasion to engage in illegal activities. So we have our plan caters for this, and we have increased several of our patrols, not only around Grenada, but we would have had Coast Guard assets stationed at Petit Martinique and Carriacou and in the waters of Grenada. And we will be vigilant. At the same time, in response to COVID-19, we have our curfew on at midnight. So it's a lot of work, and we would want to appeal to the Grenadian population that any activity that they see that seems to be illegal, and we're not speaking about the government-approved process of bringing in people into Grenada, we're looking at persons who are coming in illegally, and those who want to engage in illegal activity, to please notify the police so we can have a proper response in this regard. We are deploying several of our police officers into the various parishes and into Carriacou at this time. The patrols and the monitoring of our coastline, etc., is in process. As soon as we receive directives from the policymakers with respect to how the process is going to unfold to persons who will be coming to Grenada legally, then we would have to secure those facilities to ensure that all those persons who comes to our shore is secure and that we do not have a mixture in respect to COVID-19 and what can happen. So we are doing what we are expected to do at this time. As I said, we are in a state of high alert with respect to persons coming in. We would want to know all who come to Grenada, who they are, what are their identities, and where they are coming from, so that we can do all our background checks with respect to ensuring that as we allow persons to come into Grenada, that the population remains safe and secure, and that we are aware of all who would have come into our country. So we have responded, and we have upped the number of persons and augmented Carriacou and Petit Martinique with personnel, immigration officers, etc. And we have several other activities going on the mainland, and we are going to be directed as to what the policy would be with respect to those coming in, and we will treat it in accordance. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you very much, DCP, for that update from the perspective of the Royal Grenada Police Force. Now, the National Disaster Management Agency, NADMA, has a coordinating role to play with respect to disaster management in Grenada. Mr. Benedict Peters is the National Disaster Coordinator, and he's here with us this morning. Mr. Peters, what can you add from NADMA's perspective?
Thank you very much, Mr. Roberts. Thank you very much, and pleasant morning to viewers and listeners. The NADMA role here is a coordinating. We have to look at the humanitarian component of it. We have brothers and sisters in our sister isle who most likely will be displaced, and they're seeking our assistance. So NADMA will coordinate that process. As was mentioned before, there are 2 centers where we expect persons to come in, and at that station there we will provide the necessary support in working along with the Ministry of Health to ensure persons are healthy, and those are not, the necessary steps to be taken to so bring them to that state. So NADMA will work along ensuring that our personnel on the ground in that regard carry the necessary safety equipment and give the necessary PPEs and provide support to persons. We are asking for support among our population in this time of need, and we want help, and actually we have to feed them. We'll have to actually provide some hygiene kit support, and we'll have to provide sleeping accommodation and sleeping facilities. Those are some of the things that will be needed as persons coming for our assistance. We also want to make an appeal to providers of our Wi-Fi services, that if those services could be made available to those centers so that persons could contact their families back at home to create a piece of comfort to the individuals. That would be very, very helpful. So as we said, we are asking our Grenadian population to provide the support of our brothers and sisters in this time of need. I also want to mention here that we have a list from the St. Vincent Disaster Office that has sent a request, and it is considered immediate needs, volcanic emergencies. And they're asking for water tanks, 800 to 1,000 gallons. They're asking for 1,000 of those. 5-gallon buckets, 5,000 of those. Folding cots, 10,000. Portable potties, toilets, 150. Blankets, 30,000. Field tents, 50. Field kitchen, 2. Sleeping mats, 3,000. Respiratory masks and filters, 1,000. Goggles, 25,000. Reflective vest, 2,000. Caution tape, 1,000 feet. Roll, 100 of those. And hygiene kits. So that's a list that comes directly from the NEMO, which is the National Disaster Office in St. Vincent. And they have put out a need for those items. So persons out there who could assist in that regard will contact NADMA, and we will coordinate that process to help our brothers and sisters. The numbers that we are providing here, to contact NADMA at 440-8390, 8391, 8392, and 440-0838. So those are numbers that you could contact NADMA and provide assistance. NADMA is also will provide some assistance. We have asked Mr. Maxwin, who is in charge of the warehouse, so I identified items that could be part of that whole process. But we are asking the public, the general public, to come in the need of our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent who has suffered that natural event that has caused a level of discomfort and displacement. And we will be working along with our stakeholders in Grenada to coordinate an effort to ensure that they go through that period of distress in the best way they can. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peters. And of course, you heard there the appeal for supplies, much needed supplies for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We are one Caribbean, and as brothers and sisters, we ought to come to the assistance of others when the need arises. Many have stepped up to the plate in the past to assist us when we had our own difficulties. We have come to the question and answer segment. I note that media representatives present this morning, Linda Straker, Mikey Hutchinson, and Ride Along Live out of New York. Any questions from media?
Yes, I have a few questions, if I may.
Sure, Mikey, you can go ahead. Let's start with 2 to give the others an opportunity, and then we can circle back to you.
Okay. All right, good morning to your panelists and to the listening and viewing public. How soon can we expect to start receiving the evacuees, and what are the prerequisites for persons to be shortlisted for accommodation in Grenada?
Okay, thank you very much, Mikey, for this question. As stated before, the possible timeline for the receipt of evacuees will be within 2 weeks. As we heard from the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines this morning, the process to get people here is somewhat lengthy. But given that we as a nation have a requirement as it relates to the COVID protocols, and also the cruise liners that have provided assistance to evacuate the evacuees have their own protocols. Evacuees will have to receive at least 1 dose of the vaccine. The rapid antigen test will have to be administered. And of course, the government will have to do their own survey, as they've said, to ascertain from evacuees, potential evacuees, as to the countries they will like to be evacuated to. So that being said, we are ready. We make the necessary arrangement, and we have continued to make that commitment. And they will get back to us to say when. But as we have established, it will not be in a week's time.
Thank you, Mikey. Do you have another question?
Okay, yes, I wanted to know what is the maximum amount of people that we are preparing for at this moment?
Initially, we would have communicated to St. Vincent that we can take as much as 1,600. What we have been told, we may not get that amount at this point in time. So we are open to the number that we will get from the authorities in St. Vincent.
Linda, do you have any questions at this point, or can Mikey continue?
Yes, I have a question. Good afternoon. My question is really for now to Officer Francois. Can you tell us if there is a special name for that operation where officers has been deployed to Carriacou and PD Martinique, the number of officers involved, the length of time for that operation, 2-3 months, because this morning listening to Prime Minister Gonzalez, he mentioned that the research center says that something like that is a minimum of 4 months we will see heavy activity in the volcano. So how long would we see our officers being stationed there for? And my question for either Mr. Peters or Senator Garway, yes, we are going to accept a couple of evacuees. What is the length of time they will be allowed to stay in Grenada? I know they're CARICOM nationals and there might be some CARICOM rule to apply, but this is going to be at a certain number of, will they have a period to remain, or would they be remaining indefinitely?
Okay, Linda. Thank you for the question, and I would not be able to tell you how long this operation is going to last. It depends on what the situation is in Vincent. What I can tell you is that we have permanent police activities that has been taking place in Carriacou. We have the Carriacou police station, we have the Petit Martinique police station. So there is a permanent presence in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. However, as a result of what is happening now, we are merely augmenting the security arrangements in Carriacou. And so our operation in response to this we would have had to increase the number of immigration officers, the number of SSU officers, the number of regular officers for patrols, etc. And that is going to continue. I cannot tell an officer is be going there for 2 days or 3 days, but we would be sending persons up, changing the shift when required, and ensure that our numbers remain in Carriacou to augment the security operations there.
Thank you, DCP. Minister Garraway?
Thanks very much.
Philo, can I just ask for some clarity?
Sure, Linda, go ahead.
The officers to remain. I did ask what if that operation has a specific name. Around Christmas time, you have Operation Yuletide season. So, is there a name for that operation?
Not
and how much officers are involved with that?
I would not want to say, because, as I said before, this is a two-pronged approach with respect to St. Vincent. At the same time, we're dealing with illegal activities. I would not want to tell you that we have 5 persons or 6 persons, but in our own judgment, we have sufficient officers that we believe can handle the situation in St. Vincent that is unfolding, and at the same time, sufficient officers to handle the potential illegal activities that may happen there. So with respect to tell you numbers, I will not be able to tell you numbers because of security reasons, but we are deploying and we're going to exchange persons as time goes on, refresh persons that are there, carry back persons to the mainland, and continue this operation for as long as it takes.
DCP, I think she also asked if there was a particular name for the operation.
No, not specific at this time, because, as I said, we were in a high alert mood before with respect to the operations at sea. And so we continue. All we did was augment the operations there and ensure that the security is beefed up in Carriacou and Petit Martinique. So if there is, I can get back to you if we do specifically name an operation there when we have a little more clarity of what is happening out there.
Thank you, DCP. Minister, her question was about the length of time that evacuees will be allowed to stay.
Thanks very much, Philo. It is not yet established how long this unrest at La Soufrière will go on for. However, the commitment that we have made to our brothers and sisters of St. Vincent is that we are there to support them as they experience this unrest. So if this response will have to take 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, we will be there to give support in this regard to ensure that we alleviate some of the discomfort and the suffering that our brothers and sisters is likely to experience as a result of this eruption.
Linda, do you have another question?
Yes, I do. I asked them because I know I'm around old enough to remember when we would have had the situation in Montserrat and people would have come here, and there are people still who came from Montserrat who still reside in Grenada. That question was actually to follow up whether they would be allowed to stay in Grenada indefinite to work and do everything else because of what is happening and we have no idea how it's going to last. Or is it a case where we're going to say, you'll be going back after 6 months?
Well, what I can say, there are no similarities with the La Soufrière and what happened in Montserrat. La Soufrière and the eruption is just a few communities that have been impacted. What I can say as of this morning, Prime Minister Gonzalez would have said they are doing everything in-house to accommodate as much as they can. So they have been able to activate a number of shelters, and they have put a number of systems in place to house the residents at safe zones. Hence the reason why the list that the national coordinator would have read a while ago spoke to cots, tents, and field kitchen and so forth, because St. Vincent is working towards keeping as much as possible the people home. We have to be mindful that this eruption is in the middle of a pandemic, and you're trying as much as possible to, one, curtail or contain spread, and two, to keep families together. So as much as they can, they are working towards this. Hence the reason why they will do the survey and to get from residents those who would like to be evacuated and to where.
Thank you very much, Minister. We had Junior George on the line from Ride Along Live, but he's experiencing some difficulties. He has sent a question here. Okay, all right, Junior, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry about that. I was experiencing some difficulties in the area that I was at earlier. Thanks for taking my question. Philo, we heard reports yesterday from folks on the ground in St. Vincent and the Grenadines of there being somehow forced to take the vaccine as they enter the shelters. We've seen videos that was put out on media on Facebook last night, and I wanted to find out: is Grenada making any of these requests for vaccinated persons coming from St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Are they making that type of request for evacuees coming into Grenada?
Thanks for the question, Junior. In discussion between the prime ministers of both countries, Prime Minister Gonzalez has assured his Grenadian counterpart that all evacuees will be required to have at least the very first dose of the COVID vaccine before they are allowed to evacuate to other countries. It was also recommended during the press conference that Prime Minister Gonzalez hosted yesterday that even persons going to shelters are encouraged to have the first dose of the vaccine. Here in Grenada, we have not made any such requirement, but our testing protocols will be quite rigorous. The evacuees will be given COVID antigen test on arrival, and after the requisite quarantine period, the PCR test will be administered. Dr. Bradford, is there anything you'd want to add to this?
No, I think you much covered it, Phil.
I wanted to give one piece in addition to this.
Go ahead, Minister, and I'll come back.
The cruise lines have made it a condition of entering the cruise ship that you need to have your first dose of the vaccine. So in as much as you will want to ensure that you move people out of the danger area, you have to do this in a safe manner. And Prime Minister Gonzalez understands this very much, that if you are to move people from one area into another and enter into shelters, he understands that this is a present danger before us unfolding. And he has made this clear to the nationals that you will have to have the form of defense, and that is the COVID vaccine. And in as much as the cruise line is saying, we have to protect our staff as well. And that is the form of defense we have, and they make this a condition. But Grenada is ready, and as we have said, the rapid antigen test will be administered, and the protocol will be administered when they arrive in Grenada. Because, of course, we have to be mindful of the risks that we are all exposed to.
And we should probably add at this point some clarity in case there are future questions with regard to the administration of the rapid test. That will be the antigen test, which is different to the antibody test, because there is some concern that if persons are tested after receiving the vaccine, they will show positive for the antibodies. However, that is not the case. With the antigen test, it does not detect any antibodies. Right, Dr. Bradford? I think I got that right?
You got it right. The antigen test picks up viral particles. So if you have been exposed to the virus, the antigen test will pick it up. The antibody, if you've been given the vaccine, you have not been given the virus. You have created something that's much like what is on the surface of the virus, and you develop an antibody to it. So when you check, you will have antibodies to it after a period of time. And you would have antibodies if you had been infected before or if you've been given the vaccine, but not the antigen test. Once you see that antigen test, that is, and it's positive, you are carrying the virus there, whatever the titer level.
Thank you, Dr. Bradford, for adding the further clarity there. Junior George, do you have another question before we take someone else from the media? Okay, apparently Junior has not heard us. Mikey, we come back to you.
Are you hearing me? Are you hearing me?
I can hear you now. Yes, I can hear you now. Do you have another question?
Yeah.
Okay, please
go ahead. I'm aware
ahead.
of the antigen tests, and I'm also aware that the antigen test is less effective in picking up the particles than the PCR test. I myself took the antigen test at a peak of the time that I had COVID, and he told me that I did have COVID. So it's very unreliable in my perspective. Is there any reason why they're getting antigen tests rather than PCR tests, less than the fact that it's probably less expensive?
No, the antigen test is to get a quick feel of what is happening, because if you get, let's say, 40, 50 evacuees coming at one time, you want to be able to separate them. And anyone who is positive, you move them to one section of the building or to another building altogether. But they will be getting PCR tests as well. Everyone who comes in will be getting PCR tests, but it will take longer, especially if the test is done in Carriacou. The samples have to be sent over here to be analyzed. But I know Dr. Charles and Minister Steele and the team from the Ministry of Health, they have started to work towards getting supplies over, getting additional supplies up and over to Carriacou, and we hopefully be in a state of readiness for any influx of people, personnel, evacuees, sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Bradford. Mikey Hutchinson, we'll come back to you now. Do you have more questions?
Yes, I do. And we are in the middle of what can become a humanitarian crisis for a certain section of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Should people decide, based on whatever reason, that they would want to leave St. Vincent and the Grenadines and go over to Carriacou for food or for water, and they are identified by the police, what steps will the police be taking then? Are they going to be putting them to the system so that they can be tested and quarantined or so, or probably deported?
Mikey, we are working along with the health officials in Carriacou as well. And if any person would have come into Carriacou and not going through the proper official entry points, they would have to be taken to one of those sites that are approved with the medical facilities. They would have to also see an immigration officer who would have to determine their status and medically checked and taken to one of the approved facilities. So we will not allow persons to just come into Grenada and mix with the population and go wherever they want to. So if that happens, we would have to get them to see the health officials, and at the same time an immigration officer would have to process them in the manner that we have in place at this time.
Are we open to persons who want to accommodate? For example, I have colleagues who are in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who probably would like to come over to Grenada. Are we encouraging persons to accommodate them, like myself? And if I so do decide to, what will be required?
Okay, Mikey, excellent question. This is what we are experiencing currently in Carriacou and Petite Martinique, where you have a number of family members over in St. Vincent, and they will like to come home. So what we have established, evacuees coming over will have to be medically cleared before they can integrate within the society. So yes, they will come through the custom, get documented. The health professionals will have to do the necessary screening, and they will then enter into quarantine and will go through that period of quarantine and to be medically cleared. After that is accomplished, they can then be integrated within the families or the communities. But that is the desired option that we would like to see. So if you have persons right now who indicating that they want to come over and you're prepared to host them, let us know and let us do this thing as effectively and efficiently as possible to ensure that we maintain all the protocols that we have established within the state of Grenada.
Mikey, is there another question from you?
Yes, there is. There are Grenadians who are currently working in St. Vincent and the Grenadines who are displaced. Should they decide to board a flight to come to Grenada, would they be required to get a PCR test from St. Vincent and the Grenadines? And we know things are interrupted there, so probably that would hinder, how quickly they can return home. What are we doing about that?
Well, the information that I currently have, the airport is currently closed, so there will be no flights. So nationals who want to get back home, the protocol will kick in. You will have to go through the normal protocol that has been established. But I want to segue to Dr. Braffett, because the COVID committee has established norms that must be followed.
Yes, well, if there are individuals, as you said, they can't fly out now, basically. And no individuals can fly out unless, I guess, it's special military or paramilitary type groups. So individuals are mostly going to be coming by boat, and they should go, obviously, report to the customs area, either in Carriacou or here in Grenada. And from there, they will be processed and sent to one of the quarantine sites and assess the status, COVID status assessed before they're released into the community. And let me say at this point, I think it is also important and incumbent for us to point out to our residents not to move to take your relatives in without them passing through the official channels. If we do that, then we increase significantly the chances of spread of the disease. I know St. Vincent's been fighting successfully in recent weeks in controlling the problem over there. But if you looked at what was happening even last night, and you saw those crowds accumulated, and most of the people would not have been wearing masks. In any situation like this, people, COVID is going to be the last thing on the mind, but it will have an effect down the road. And so we have to be on guard to be able to quickly pick up individuals who come in who but potentially might have contracted the virus over recent hours.
Thank you, Dr. Braffett. Linda Straker, it's back to you for your follow-up questions.
Thanks. Can the police say to us whether or not Carriacou Port will become the official port of entry for evacuees from St. Vincent? So once you get clearance in Carriacou, then you can eventually end up in Grenada. And my question to Mr. Peters, following the immediate eruption, we would have gotten a message from the UE Seismic Research Center about ash and how it would affect airlines and so. I seen earlier this morning, someone said that there is ash over the St. Patrick's area. Can you tell us whether or not our weather officers confirmed that what we are seeing in the sky is either ash or Sahara dust? Because I think it was Wednesday we would have gotten a notice that there would be a flow of Sahara dust through the atmosphere. So is it Sahara dust or is it ash that is passing over Grenada, particularly in the area of St. Patrick's right now?
Ms. Stricker, I cannot confirm if it's any of the above, but I will not be surprised of it being any of them. But we'll have to get more information for me to confirm which it is.
Ms. Stricker, on the question of persons coming in, I think, yes, there is an official entry point at Hillsborough. I don't know if that situation would change with other directives from the policymakers, we'll see. But any point that the Ministry of Health is available with respect to screening and the immigration officers are there, this is where we'd expect persons to come through. As for persons coming into Carriacou, and when you get to Carriacou, you can come to Grenada, that will be a different situation, because the procedures and the protocol of coming to Grenada in response to this would have some requirements that you heard Minister mention just now. You don't know if it's 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever. Whatever is the protocol, if you come for 3 weeks to go back, that is what we're going to stick by. If you're a Grenadian and you're coming in and then you're cleared by the health officials and you're done your quarantine, well, yes, we cannot prevent you from coming to the mainland. But persons who are coming in pursuant to the activities in St. Vincent, there would be requirements and we would enforce whatever that policy is.
Linda, anything further from you? Okay, so we have not heard from Linda. Mikey, any final questions from you?
I got one question.
Okay, Junior, you go ahead. Junior, you can go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Earlier, in response to one of my colleagues' questions on bringing people that want to come from St. Vincent to Grenada, the doctor responded, Dr. Bradford responded about being medically cleared before they come in. Could you explain the term medically cleared and what is the process that they have to undergo to be medically cleared? And is it just the antigen tests that they're looking at to medically clear individuals that's coming in? And the second question that I have, it relates to the first question that I asked in relations to the vaccine. And what does the science tell us about the first dose or one dose vaccine, and how long do that vaccine have to be in a person before it develops some type of protection in the immune system? What does the science tell us, and how effective would that be?
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for the questions. The one dose of the vaccine, let me deal with that first. One dose of the vaccine will increase your chances of being able to resist the virus if you're exposed to it. This takes some weeks to kick in, and after 3 weeks or so, you will get some degree of protection, but you will not get full protection until you get the second dose. And for the vaccine that we are using here, this is the same as the one St. Vincent is using. Second dose approximately 10 weeks later. Now, some of the individuals coming from St. Vincent would have had their vaccine 6 weeks or 8 weeks earlier, and so they may actually get their second vaccine by the time they get here. And certainly in a week or two time, we would have had people who might have been fully vaccinated, but they will be still undergoing some process of testing. Now, in terms of medical clearance, I was not referring, obviously, if you sense that someone has some other contagious problem, that person will have to be screened if that person appears to be ill, etc. And that will be done, and temperatures will be taken. But we were referring to medical screening with reference specifically to COVID, because the same protocols that apply for any visitor coming into the island will have to apply for the evacuees coming in to the island. If they were fully vaccinated, then those protocols might be tweaked and to allow easier release from the quarantine place. But outside of that, basically the similar protocols will apply. Of course, the chief medical officer has the discretionary right in certain circumstances, along with Dr. Mitchell, as it's been going on now for many months. They will decide if somebody can be quarantined, if the person might have a house of their own that's empty, and they would allow that person, having been tested and having been found to be negative, to be quarantined in specific locations. So to some extent, individuals might be their situations might be looked at on an individual basis, but on a general basis, the thrust is to make sure that everyone that leaves that center is found to be COVID negative.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bradford. Junior, anything further from you?
I don't think I got a clear understanding as to what was the determination of medically cleared. I don't know if I missed part of what he said. Sorry, Mr. Bradford.
Okay.
But, are we saying that we're looking at the antigen test to determine if that person is medically cleared?
No.
Or are we saying that if that person doesn't exhibit any type of fever or any type of immediate visible signs, then they're medically cleared.
No.
What does the term medically cleared mean?
Certainly not the question of exhibiting signs is out of the question, because we know about half of individuals who are carrying the virus have basically no symptoms. So they to be medically clear from the point of view of COVID, you have to have had a PCR test, and that PCR test has to come back as negative. A nasopharyngeal swab, and that PCR test. The rapid antigen allows us, if we got a boat coming in with 50, 100 people on board at one point, you could easily screen and decide, okay, there's less likelihood that these people some individuals have it, and you huddle them together. If you pick up positives, where it is very useful, obviously, if you pick up positives in an individual, to be able to take that individual and quarantine them. That's the main usefulness of the PCR. Pick up a positive individual, take them and quarantine them away from the rest of the family and the individuals that they might be traveling with.
Thank you, Dr. Bradford. Junior, I hope you've gotten the explanation now. If not, it will be useful to listen back to the recording once we've finished, because I think we've explained it about 3 times already. So just for efficiency of time this morning. Any other questions from you before I check with the other reporters and we wrap things up?
No, go right ahead. I'll follow up with you for the clarification. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you. Linda and Mikey, anything further from either of you?
I just wanted to at least get clarity on whether or not we have the exact list of the centers that have been identified as shelters for the evacuees.
And I see that baby Mikey wants to have his say in this press conference. That's okay.
I apologize for that.
No problem. That's fine. He's a young journalist in training. Mikey, we will be making those details available in due course. It has to be finalized, and of course we will be announcing and making yourselves as members of the media and members of the public aware. Anything else?
No, that's it for me for today. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Linda, anything final from you? Okay, I guess...
No.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So, gentlemen, we'll go into the wrap-up session. I think we'll take our final thoughts and comments from everyone. Mr. Peters, anything final for members of the media and the listening and viewing public?
I just want to say to our Grenadian population, what happened in St. Vincent is a natural event, and persons have been affected by that process. And I think it's a time for us to help these persons to get over that situation as much as possible. I don't think we should be too hurried in how soon they leave, because it happens in Montserrat when people choose to go back. They died. So I just think we need to help them through that process, and as quick as possible to help the recovery and the state that they're in. They're actually, some will be traumatized by that experience, and we need to pay attention to the social component of the person being that come to our shores for rescue. And I just want once again to ask our population to support the need and understand the needs that are required as mentioned before, and provide the support where they can. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. DCP Francois, over to you.
Thank you. I want to make this special appeal to the Grenadian population, but remind that our borders are very porous. And in spite of all the best efforts to appoint designated entry points, both at Carriacou and in Grenada, you will find persons who would still attempt to enter the country illegally and cause problems both medically and security-wise for us. So I want to make this special appeal to ask persons to be very vigilant during this period, especially persons who live on the coastline or who have cause to be on our coastlines, etc., and other persons in the general population to look out for any suspicious activities you would see taking place in any of our beaches or other areas, or persons that you suspect could have got here illegally, try and get that information into the nearest police station in the area where you are, or you can call our police control center at 440-3999 or 911, which is an easier number to remember. We want to police this situation in a way that would assist the people of St. Vincent and at the same time maintain our security controls to protect the people of Grenada. So it is in your interest as well to assist the Royal Grenada Police Force in ensuring that our country remains safe and that your family remains safe. So we ask you, any suspicious activities, any persons you see that you believe did not come through our official entry point, please get on to us so we can have an immediate response to ensure that we maintain the security that we want for Grenada. Thank you.
Thank you, DCP, for those closing thoughts from the RGPF. Dr. Braffett?
Thank you, Femia. I'd just like to reassure the public that the Ministry of Health, speaking because many of the Ministry of Health personnel are on the health subcommittee, that they are working assiduously to be on top of this situation. Last evening we were scheduled to have a meeting to look at protocols for the regular protocols for COVID, and immediately our full attention was shifted to this matter. And I am comfortable with all the steps that have been taken to put things in place to be able to handle this situation. A virus, the volcano coming on top of the volcano coming on top of the COVID pandemic is not, it's a bad scene scenario, and double jeopardy indeed. And but it is something that will test us because it's right on our doorsteps. Our organizational skills are going to be tested at every level. Our adaptability will be tested, and our humanity will also be tested because, as was said, moving away from your home and often perhaps going back, not to be able to go to home at all again because your home might be destroyed, your livestock lost, all your agricultural crops gone, your source of income gone. These are things that we need to put in place, think of as we meet individuals who are coming through from St. Vincent. And I'm sure as it's happened in other disasters that our people will come, we will stand up and be accounted for, and that we can only roll with nature. We can't control, we can't stop COVID from coming or the volcano from erupting. It's about how we handle it, and I'm confident that we have started on the right footing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Braffett, for those closing thoughts and comments. Minister Garraway?
Thank you very much, Philo, and want to signal to the nation that we are capable and we are able to respond adequately to the unfolding situation within St. Vincent. We have demonstrated in the past that we have the resolve and we have the wherewithal to make good with whatever situation that is before us. As I speak, we have released, and that is the RGPF, the Government of Grenada, Superintendent Sylvan McIntyre, who is currently within St. Vincent, working with NEMO, the disaster office in St. Vincent, to help build capacity to respond to this crisis that is unfolding. He's been there for more than 3 weeks already. I want to say as well that at our meeting last night and this morning, as NEAC, as we respond to this crisis, we have put in place all the mechanism to help respond to the unfolding situation. And one of the response mechanism that is in place is the psychosocial support that will be necessary to help people to cope with this crisis. We understand how traumatic it will be when you are displaced from your home, your regular surrounding, your comfort level will be reduced and so on. And people will need a set of support to help them to cope. And the Ministry of Social Development, who is charged with this responsibility, is in place to do this. And we are ready, and we will ensure that whoever comes to our country, we will be able to provide a set of support to them to be able to cope in this trying time. I want to take this opportunity also to thank our stakeholders who, on short notice yesterday, came out to the emergency meeting to respond to this. I don't want to call names because I may not remember all of them, but just to say a special thank you to St. George's University, who readily made themselves available to provide accommodation. And with all the other agencies who have been there and pledged their support and started working from last night and reported this morning that the systems are in place, I want to say a special thank you. And generally, we observe that whenever there is a crisis, it helps to galvanize support within the nation and is an opportunity for us to recognize the challenges that we face as a nation. And it's something that you didn't probably cater for, but now you're called to lend a hand to your brother and sister who is in need. And this is a moment for us to recognize we have been given an opportunity to extend a hand of comfort, a hand of love, a hand of safety to our brothers and sisters in St. Vincent. And let us embrace this moment and do what we are known for, to demonstrate the Grenadian hospitality to brothers and sisters who are displaced. Thank you, and thank you. I want to say a special thank you to P.S. Jones, who have just been entrusted with this significant responsibility, but jump in with both hands and feet and are doing a tremendous job in helping us to coordinate our response in this regard. Thank you very much, P.S. Rhonda Jones. Back to you, P.S. First Secretary.
P.S. Yes. Thank you very much, Minister. Certainly a very sobering moment for us here, but as Caribbean people, you know, we stand together and we stand united. We must be ready to help our brothers and sisters, but remember, we have to do so responsibly. The governments of both countries, the prime ministers, they have spoken and they have agreed to collaborate on exactly how this evacuation effort will roll out, if in fact the evacuees do come to Grenada. The transportation arrangements will be made, quarantine arrangements, all of that, and further announcements will be made in the coming days as we finalize our preparations on this end. And remember too, there is no guarantee that we will actually receive evacuees from St. Vincent, but we have to stand ready to assist our brothers and sisters. For those with family and friends who are also willing to accept them, remember too that due process must be followed. Yes, you can open your homes to them, but they have to come in through the proper channel. They have to do the quarantine and they have to be medically cleared before they can be integrated into our society. We have to remember that while we extend this hand of assistance, we also continue to be in the middle of a global health crisis. I just want to reiterate before we close off the needed items that Mr. Peters spoke about, which was submitted by the National Emergency Management Organization in St. Vincent, a sister organization to Grenada's NADMA. So they need water tanks, 800 and 1,000 gallon, 5-gallon buckets, folding cots, portable potties, blankets, field tents, field kitchen, sleeping mats, respirator mask with filters, goggles, reflective vest, caution tape, and hygiene kits. Grenadians, any and which way you can help the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we encourage you to do so. Government will also be doing what it can to assist. And finally, the contact numbers for NADMA, should you be willing or in a position to provide assistance: 440-8390, 8391, 8392, also 440-0838. Thank you so much for joining us for this press briefing. We do hope that you have garnered a wealth of information as it relates to the Government of Grenada's response to the unfolding situation in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We continue to keep our brothers and sisters in our prayers. I am Press Secretary Philomena Robertson. Thank you so much.